So, apparently LSU is going to hire Brian Kelly. What is B-Man's reaction? Well, I must say I'm not mad. I'm not hurt. I'm not sad. I'm not surprised. Well, you know what? I am. I'm surprised. And I'm shocked. But I'm not mad. This is just the way it is. What does this mean for Notre Dame? We have all these questions. I didn't expect this to happen so quickly after Saturday. You know, the big story of the news yesterday was Lincoln Riley leaving Oklahoma, going out west to USC. He was even asked about the LSU job, and he said no, he didn't lie. But then you get this breaking story that Lincoln Riley is actually leaving to USC. And then after all the chaos that Ohio State lost, with Michigan winning and, Oklahoma losing out, Oklahoma State winning, so many teams ahead of Notre Dame, there was so much that needed to happen for Notre Dame to get in. I was going to concentrate on that. My next podcast, their win on Saturday over Stanford, 45-14. I was sitting down here in my basement, concentrating on all that. As I'm looking through notes and stuff about Saturday's game that I wrote down here in front of my TV. And I get this beep, beep, beep. Breaking news, ESPN News, CBS Sports, Yahoo Sports, Sports Illustrated, all these apps I have on my phone. LSU is set to hire Notre Dame's football coach, Brian Kelly. And I'm like, yeah, there goes my show for tomorrow night. So I'm sitting here talking to you guys now. This is raw emotion. I had no time to prepare. This is just me talking to you without writing any notes, not doing any research, just my full reaction. What the big question is now is, before I start to panic here about the future of Notre Dame, not because Brian Kelly is leaving, what's really going to bother me is how many recruits are going to leave. How many players said that they were going to go to Notre Dame are going to back out? How many players are going to transfer? How is this going to negatively affect Notre Dame next year? I was worried about Lincoln Riley going over to USC because that would be, USC when that team is good and USC is great, it's a problem for Notre Dame. It's problematic. Okay, I was worried about that. I was going to talk about that in my next show. Pile on with all the playoff stuff in college football, all the teams ahead of them, Ohio State, losing to Michigan and possibly Notre Dame getting in somehow, and if not, going to a bowl game. Piling all that in on top of the USC job Lincoln Riley going to. Now this. Something to worry about. It won't keep me up at night because there's other things that keep me up at night, and I'm pretty sure you don't want to know what those are. But what happens next? Who's going to be the head coach? Is it going to be the defensive coordinator, Marcus Freeman? We don't know. No one knows. I've seen Twitter reports. Now, listen, I don't follow Twitter. I don't believe all the things you hear on Twitter or Facebook. But there was a report out there that Brian Kelly was ghosting Notre Dame, and he already spoke to his assistant coaches about taking the LSU job. Oh my God, folks, you should see some of the comments. I'm not going to go on here and show you the comments people are leaving on Twitter about Brian Kelly, all the LSU fans saying we don't want him. He got crushed by Alabama. He choked on the big stage. We don't need that kind of coach here. I mean, just the comments that I've seen from LSU fans are hilarious. And I'm sitting here wondering what's going to happen to Notre Dame's program. I mean, something might be breaking right now as I'm talking to you. But I'll get into that later on down the week. But, I'm shocked, but I'm not, if that makes sense. Okay, and I know I already said I was shocked on here, but I don't know how to feel. Because this is how sports is today in the new age. Coaches don't stay long term. I mean, Brian Kelly was over here for a decade, so that's long term. But they just don't stay in one position for their whole career. Okay, and then retire. I never felt, Brian Kelly, he's 6 years old. I never felt that Brian Kelly would retire at Notre Dame. I was thinking maybe if he ever won a national championship, he would finally step down because he finally achieved his goal and got on top of that mountain and staked his flag. And then eventually stepped down from the mountain and said, I'm done. I proved you guys wrong. So, I'm just sitting here talking to you guys, like I said, raw emotions. Like, I'm unprepared. So if I'm a little dorky and all over the place, that's because I want you guys to see how I am feeling raw. Okay. And I know I've said raw, you guys could play a drinking game 100 times. So I've said that word 100 times. So you're probably drunk already off 100 shots. But yeah, they just craziness in college football, folks. Just a lot of craziness with Lincoln Riley yesterday, and then now this Brian Kelly news, him ghosting Notre Dame, apparently talking to assistant coaches. And like I said, the big question at Notre Dame is what's next? Will he even coach the bowl game? I think that he can't coach the bowl game if a coach decides to leave to another program. I wouldn't want him coaching the bowl game. Don't have him coach the bowl game. Who's going to coach the bowl game, even if they do go to the playoffs, which I don't think they're going to. Okay? Because there's too many teams ahead of them. There's too many scenarios that would need to happen. This is going to be a distraction for the team. How many players are going to step down between now and the bowl game? I mean, is that a possibility? Like, is there going to be players who are going to want to transfer or not want to play because of this decision? Because Brian Kelly left? There's a lot of questions that need to be answered here. And you will find out. And we'll all find out together as Notre Dame fans. And if you're a fan of B-Man, I'll let you know what's going to happen. But, like, this, I don't think something like this, coaches have been fired between the end of the season and the bowl game. But not having a winning season like Notre Dame has had in my lifetime at least, has Notre Dame ever done something like this, or a coach has done something like this after possibly having a slight chance of getting into the playoffs and possibly winning a national championship, like a 20% chance? And the funny thing is, the last 3 weeks I have been praising Brian Kelly. You know, I criticized him on this channel for the last year. I've been criticizing him since he's been at Notre Dame. And the last 3 to 4 weeks, I've been saying that, you know, his coaching decisions, you know, even though I criticize his X's and O's, he finally not necessarily ran the score up, but became more style points, became more attractive on offense, scored more points, became more explosive, you know, instead of pulling off on the leash, or pulling on the leash, I should say, when they're up by 3 scores. He threw all that out the window and completely exploded the last 3 games with scoring 55 points, you know, against Georgia Tech and 45 points this past weekend against Stanford. And this. I'm not going to sit here and criticize him. I get it. You haven't won a national championship here at Notre Dame. You've had your chances. You've failed. You probably feel like you have a better chance of winning at LSU. You can recruit better. You know, it's not as hard to recruit at LSU as it is at Notre Dame, but I will say this. You got Alabama. You have other teams to compete with in that conference. And the thing that's going to be different for him is now he's going to be in a conference. It's going to be the SEC. Even though he did play, you know, in the conference with Notre Dame last year because of the COVID rules, he was in the ACC for 1 year. But this will be different. And look, I know he's been at other colleges who've been in conferences, but he's going to have other teams to recruit with in your same conference with Alabama and Georgia. So it'll be pretty interesting to see how he pairs against, you know, Georgia and Alabama, the 2 top teams in the SEC who have been the last 5 years at least, including with Auburn. So it'll be interesting to see how Brian Kelly compares to those teams in the next 5 years. Because usually about 3 to 5 years is when you see your true coaching style, your true recruits come in. And we'll just have to see. And I'm not angry. I'm not pissed at him. I wish him the best. I mean, right now I'm just completely shocked, like I said, but I'm not. Like, I'm a little bit of both. Like, you get what you get, you know. Like, it's the way it is. And I didn't believe it when I first saw it. I thought it was a joke, but when it's like 3 separate alerts at one time, beep, 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 you know, my phone ended up sounding like a ping pong machine. Kind of believe it, and you see it on Twitter that he's ghosting Notre Dame, and I know everything on Twitter, like I said, isn't real. But folks, like, there's so many questions at Notre Dame, like I said, with the players possibly transferring, players not playing for the bowl game, who's going to coach the bowl game. I don't think Brian Kelly should. If there's a rule out there that he can't coach, then so be it. He should not coach the game. Not because I'm angry, but because he's already decided to leave to LSU, and yeah, that would just not look right. That would look kind of stupid. And I don't want him here to coach at Notre Dame. It'll be a distraction. Not because I hate him or I'm mad, because it'll be a distraction. And what are the chances of Notre Dame winning their bowl game or getting into the playoffs or just winning their next game and going 12-1 on the year? I don't know. Probably not very high because it's a distraction. So I'm going to leave it at that. I hope you enjoyed tonight's breaking story. I hope you enjoyed tonight's video. Hit that like button, hit the thumbs down button, and we'll talk to you later on. I'll keep you guys updated and Always go Irish. Kind of say that a little scary now. Good night, everybody.